Hi guys. As you all probably all got time on your hands at the moment, we thought we'd put something together which outlines our journey as coaches, what our fitness background is, where we started, and where we're going, I suppose. So in terms of my journey, I've always loved sport and fitness. So from being little, I've always played tennis. That was my sport. Absolutely loved it. And then I suppose from the age of maybe about 16, 17, started to go to the gym. That became a massive part of my daily routine. My problem was that I'd do the same thing every day, day in, day out. I'd do the same thing. Very much a creature of habit. Greg used to go mad at me, but I wouldn't change it. I just got defensive. So very much stuck to the same thing. When I went off to uni, I continued to play tennis, but I also continued with the gym. And I suppose this became a little bit of an obsession for me, and perhaps one that wasn't too healthy, combined with unhealthy eating habits of not eating enough at all and excessively exercising, sort of putting me on the verge of an eating disorder, really. So from the outset, people thought, oh, you're super fit and you're really lean, but there was a lot more going on up here, and it was very much torturing myself if I didn't get the opportunity to train every day, and a really unhealthy attitude towards fitness, where no matter if I was ill or anything, I would have to plug through it. At the time, I was running 10 miles a day, 5 times a week, so clocking up over 50 miles per week. But it was a real mental battle. I loved the exercise, but if there was any change maybe to my university timetable or anything, it had just thrown me off kilter massively, and it was a tough time, really. I was super fit, but only in that set thing of what I did. I didn't change it up at all. And then sort of stuck with that probably for 4 or 5 years, and moved up to the northeast, and had a lot of time on my hands in one of my particular jobs, and I just googled everything to do with fitness and came across CrossFit. CrossFit at the time was unheard of. No one knew about it. It was really sort of underground, and luckily for me there was a CrossFit gym really close by. So I went over one November evening. It was freezing cold. You could see your breath when you walked in, and it was a really empty warehouse, bearing in mind that the lad that owned it was 16 years old. He was Jordan Wallace, for anyone that knows him. I did a 12-minute workout, and bear in mind I've been doing 3 or 4 hours in the gym every day for years. I thought, I've got this. Did 12 minutes and never looked back. It changed my life massively. Absolutely loved it. So we turned up every day at 6 o'clock. Those of you that know me now probably don't believe that, but we turned up at 6 o'clock every morning to train, and I was absolutely high as a kite after it. It just made me feel alive. I'd go to work literally bouncing off the walls, dying to tell people what I'd done, and I'd go in and I'd have blood all across my chest because they had really old bars that had knurling on, and I'd ripped my hands because we didn't get taught how to look after our hands in those times. I'd have whip marks all over me from trying to skip, but I loved it, and I met some fantastic people, and I was actually quite good at it, which is brilliant. But the thing, I suppose, that it was a big thing for me was that it took me away from this disordered eating pattern and this unhealthy attitude towards exercise, and for the first time in a long time I had to listen to my body. I started taking rest days twice a week, and I have done ever since, even when I was competing at a high level. So we started at CrossFit Tyneside, made some fantastic friends, but the big thing that made it special for me was the community and what made CrossFit different. After about not too long of being there, actually, I returned home to the northwest to go back to university to study dietetics, and there was no CrossFit gyms here. I had nowhere to train, and at the time I was trying to get to regionals, and we set somewhere up just so that I had somewhere to train, and that Greg and Gary had somewhere to work as well. So as well as being a full-time student, we were setting up CrossFit Leyland. So I sat in my lectures pretending to listen, but really running the business on my phone, and then coming back and teaching and trying to get my training in as well. So that was a really tough time, but you just got your head down and got on with it, and it was totally worth it. So I was really lucky in that I was successful in getting to the European regionals for 3 years in a row, so 2013, 14 and 15, where the top 40 girls in Europe competed against each other. And at the time I was there, it was in Copenhagen, so we were competing in a place called Ballerup in the velodrome, which was in each May, and it was a fantastic experience, absolutely nerve-wracking, bearing in mind that I'm the person that gets nervous in a normal CrossFit class in the gym, let alone on the big stage with the big dogs like Katrin Davidsdottir and Sam Briggs, Sarah Sigmundsdottir, Annie, all the big girls were there. And then there was me just sort of at the back, like thinking, oh, what am I doing the right thing? But it was a brilliant experience. So that's a little bit about my competition background. After my final regionals, I had to have surgery on both arms and both hands, and I took a year out of competing. And in all honesty, I was ready for it. It had been quite an emotional roller coaster for a few years, and I think I was ready for that break. And then when I was sort of ready to start getting fit again, a lot of the girls that I was competing against were a lot of them are full-time athletes, or certainly not juggling as many jobs as I was. And to be honest, I just really enjoy taking part in the classes, and that's where my love is, and that's where my passion is. It's in the community and the members. Competing was only ever a byproduct. It was just something that I happened to be quite good at and I fell into. It was never the reason I did CrossFit, and it was never the reason that I would train. I just train because I love it, and I love the people, and I love the atmosphere. I'm gonna do CrossFit for as long as I possibly can. You know, I'm gonna be kicking ass when I'm in my 90s. So in terms of competitions, I've done a few team ones since then, and you know, luckily I'm friends with some quite good athletes, so sometimes I get drawn into these competitions and they're good fun. But really my priority is turning up and doing classes with you guys, and my idea of a perfect weekend is meeting up with friends, training, going out for some food, and that's what I love really. So in terms of what my goals are now, it's just really staying fit, staying healthy, having fun, and just continuing to make friends. As long as we're doing that, then like it's just brilliant. I've got friends from all over the world through CrossFit, and you know, I feel that you could go to anywhere. You step into a CrossFit gym and you're walking into a ready-made friendship group, which is just like nothing else. I went to Australia by myself for a couple of weeks and stepped off the plane and thought, what have I done? I felt very strange for 24 hours. It was a Sunday, there was no CrossFit gyms open. I hired myself a bike on the Monday, I cycled over to the CrossFit gym, and then everything just fell into place. It just felt totally normal, and that's what the community of CrossFit does. You know, it's no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you're welcome with open arms really. So that's a little bit about goals. In terms of movement, my favourite movement, it's got to be any form of squatting probably. I love a pistol squat, which is a single-legged squat. Being short and wide helps me with the squatting, so I'm loving that. And in terms of my worst movements, my dreaded movements, probably a deadlift. Just literally drains the life out of me with every rep. And I'd say ring muscle ups, they scare the life out of me after over 8 years of doing CrossFit. Every time I put my hands up to jump up to the rings, inside I'm trembling. They make me nervous, and yes, I need to work on them, but you know, not all the time. So everyone has movements that they need to work on, and that they're two of mine amongst many, as well as running now. I'm a little bit heavier than I used to be, so it's a struggle. Proudest achievements has got to be setting up CrossFit Leyland and all the amazing people that we've come into contact with. It's quite possibly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and it continues to challenge us every day. But you know what? It's a thing that makes me the proudest, and it wells my eyes up like it is doing now. So there's a little bit about me, guys. Some of you might already know it, so I apologise. But for those that don't, hopefully you've learnt something. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you all soon, back in the gym, back in our normal routine.